Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now. As a matter of fact, if I needed a vasectomy, I might get one this weekend.
Oh, I forgot those commercials.
But I don't even need a vasectomy. And just remember what Ron Hecklinski said today. And you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good. Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
Greetings. There you go.
No, we are back at a Zoom from Coach King's basement, man. Just the perfect place to host a Zoom. And we got a lot to talk about, man. You know what? So the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks are in the World Series, right?
They are. Yes, they are.
Right on, man. Right on.
They are.
And so I knew probably in the middle of September, the Cubs played the Diamondbacks 6 out of 7 times. And the Cubs were fighting to get into the playoffs. They were in the wild card. Then they didn't play well. They lost. And the Diamondbacks beat them 6 out of 7 times. And as I was watching those games, I thought the Diamondbacks, man, they're young. They run. They steal bases. They're really, really good. So if you were to ask me and say, hey, Heck, are you surprised the Diamondbacks are there? I would say not at all, man, because when I saw them, they're so athletic, they're so young, and they're very, very well coached.
I listened to an interview with the Arizona coach a couple of days ago, the manager, and that's exactly what he mentioned. He talked about their series in Chicago back in
the middle of September.
Middle of September, and he said when we got finished that series, he said, "Okay, something's going to happen because we played really well." And he was trying to talk himself into thinking they had one more run. And when they finished that series with the Cubs, he said, "This is it. We're going to ride this thing out."
Yeah, no, they won 6 out of 7 games. Cubs played really well in August. Did not play their best baseball in September, but when the Diamondbacks throttled them, and I'm not even sure any of those games were close. It was the demise of the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks just took off. But I think this is interesting, too, now. I think when you look at the payrolls of both the Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers, it's not even close. The Diamondbacks have a total payroll of $41,700,000. That's their total payroll.
Total payroll.
That's their total payroll. Their highest paid player is Ketel Marte at $13.6 million. Okay. Now the Texas Rangers have a payroll of about $192 million, almost $193 million. Max Scherzer, who they got in a trade at the trade deadline, right. His contract in itself is $43 million.
So he makes the same amount as
he makes more than the Diamondbacks.
Their entire payroll.
Yeah, Jacob deGrom, who didn't pitch this year, and I think he pitched a little bit early in the season, but Jacob deGrom makes $40 million. Corey Seager, the shortstop from the Dodgers, makes $35 million. Marcus Semien makes $26 million. So if you were to look at this series and try and judge it on the payrolls and who's getting paid, you would say the Texas Rangers would win this series. And I would tell you that the Diamondbacks should be up 2-0. The Diamondbacks should be up 2-0.
They're one swing away from winning game 1.
Well, I went to bed in the 9th inning. Seawald came in. The Diamondbacks were leading 5-3.
Right.
And I said, this is over. And somebody gets on for Texas. Corey Seager hits a 2-run bomb to tie it up.
Right.
And then the other kid hits a home run in the 11th to take the lead. Dallas
Garcia.
Garcia.
Who was the MVP of the previous American League Series.
Who the St. Louis Cardinals non-tendered. He was in the St.
That's
Louis
right.
Cardinal organization, and the Cardinals, much like the Cubs, non-tendered Kyle Schwarber because Schwarber had a couple, I wouldn't say they were bad years, but his batting average wasn't great. He was still hitting bombs, but they non-tendered him, and that's the same thing the Cardinals did with Garcia. And look at Garcia today. I mean, could the Cardinals use Marsuna or Marcell Osuna, Garcia, Tommy Pham, who the Cardinals had too?
Right.
Could they use those guys in the outfield?
Well, I would think so.
I gotta think so too.
Or at least their bats.
I gotta think so too. Hey. So I think before we start this, we should open this up maybe with some sponsorships here, you think?
Well, I was going to say we're here at the house today, but we're still, sponsored. We've got to talk about Bar Louie.
We got to talk about Bar Louie, man.
Tuesday nights is hamburger special night for them, and we always appreciate them. And we're here by choice because, we just our third person with the camera isn't here, so we had to do the homemade version.
So Wally Pipp in here.
We're not going that way.
Wally Pipp
is
busy. Not
he
here.
is such a busy man that he had to be someplace else. Just like, think about you. You've been fighting under the weather a little bit, but you still toughed it out and did your ball game on Saturday.
I went to IUSB. I did a great a game at IUSB. Played Lawrence Tech. The girls played IU Kokomo. I did a doubleheader. I suffered from a little bit of vertigo on Friday. I was seeing three, so I just picked out the middle.
Well,
I picked out the person in the middle, and everything was cool.
And you're setting yourself up here because everybody at home that knows you, how can they tell you had vertigo? Because you're still picking out just the thing in the middle. It's kind of like back in the day when you were seeing double. You just
No, it's Ball Four, the book on the Yankees by Jim Bouton and Mickey Mantle and all of those stars. Whitey Ford. Mickey Mantle talks about coming in and being hungover, obviously from the night before,
right? And
all he did was say, "Hey, I was at bat and I saw three balls coming at me. I picked out the one in the middle. Yeah, 2 home runs.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
Back in the day.
Hey, let me go through and talk about some of our great sponsors. Sure. The music is obviously by the Black Sedan Band out of Birmingham, Alabama. They're great. They play great music. If anybody has any interest in them, just contact us and we can get a hold of them for you. Tony Letchers with Health Markets Insurance, whether you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, they have the right coverage for everything. Call Tony at 574-307-8882 or visit the website at tletcher.com. Hans Funeral Home. The loss of a loved one can leave you with lots of unanswered questions and stress at Hans Funeral Home of Mishawaka. They are certainly there to help you. Their focus has always been on the families that they serve. Han Funeral Homes stands ready to meet your needs and exceed your expectations. Their experienced funeral directors and staff will be there for you every step of the way. They're located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mish. Call them at 574-255-1474. It's just a hard thing when you lose a loved one in your family. It's really comforting, though, when you can stop in and get the right funeral director and let them take care of all your needs. Frick's Driving, man. I mean, you work for Frick's Driving, right?
Right, and they've been around for so long. They're now into, I guess they say their third generation. They drove Grandma and Grandpa back in the 60s and 70s. They drove the parents in the 80s and 90s, and now they've got the kids here in the 2020s.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I maybe should go back, but here's where I say I don't need to go back. I'm driving with vertical, and I'm just driving in the center lane. I got a lane to my left, a lane to my right, a lane in the center. I picked the center lane, and I was pretty good.
Now that's interesting because Ironwood only has two lanes.
Well, yeah, but
I was going to say it's a 1-lane county road.
I saw 6.
Okay.
So I just picked the middle lane, man.
Between Ironwood and Logan Street, those are 4-lane streets, 2 going both directions. So go ahead and pick the middle one.
Yeah, I just picked the middle one. So
there you go.
Those are great sponsors. And they do a great job for us. We got a lot to talk about tonight, man.
We do. And we've got Sheltraw coming in here shortly, and he's going to talk to us about some Michigan football.
So, hey, Steve, you on, man?
So put him on here. What do I have to do, Scott? Yeah, let him in.
Let's Stevie Sheltraw. What's happening, man?
He'd probably say, "Where are you,
man? How are you?"
I'm at home here.
No, I know. It looks like you just got done painting that bedroom blue, man. It looks beautiful.
You just needs a gold stripe on it, right?
Yeah, I thought you would do this from your new bathroom, man. Show us the new bathroom that you did.
No.
Hey, so I mean, you are a great football fan, a student of the game. You've been a football coach for many, many years. Obviously, you're from the state of Michigan, and obviously, you're a big Michigan Wolverine fan. And if anybody would know the ins and outs of what this sign stealing deal is, you would. So tell us the real deal with it, and what is actually going on with it.
So basically, what had happened is a private investigator, PI, had dug into the Michigan football program and basically connected this Connor Stallions, who was an offensive analyst for Michigan, to some
paid coach, right? Paid coach.
What's that?
Paid coach,
paid.
Right?
He was getting paid, yes. To some,
So was the private investigator Magnum PI? Tom Selleck?
No. Columbo. It could be Columbo for
Columbo. Peter Falk.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Now, if you're looking at it from a Michigan point of view, they're saying, well, who would benefit most? And that Ryan Day's brother is a private investigator, so you don't know. But basically what happened is they uncovered some things where this guy was paying people to go to Ohio State games, Michigan State games, Big Ten opponent games, basically. And then they uncovered some security cameras in the stadium where the people that were sitting in the seats that he bought were getting out phone cameras and videoing somebody giving signs and then matching it up. You know how we all get they've got that XOS system where you get the game film and then matching it up to the game film to steal signs. So that's basically as far as I know, Michigan has not yet been hit with a notice of allegations. I do know that the NCAA was there last week. They interviewed some people, but I don't think they've formally been charged and then from there, they've got 90 days to respond. And so officially, they're not on the clock yet. We'll see what happens.
This assistant coach then was paying these people $100 a game to go watch and video the sidelines, and the tickets were always opposite the Michigan bench, correct?
No, it would be the opponent, whoever he was scouting. So let's say he went and saw, for example, they paid him to go see Penn State, Illinois. And Michigan has got Penn State coming up in a few weeks. It would not be the opposite, the Penn State bench.
Oh,
so
yeah, no.
Filming the Penn State signs and then going from there. So now there's a lot of things that, so basically the NCAA rule says you cannot have a coach. You can have, anybody can go there, but it can't be a coach. So what's your definition of a coach? So if the money trail leads back to the University of Michigan, then I think you got some issues. If it leads back to Connor Stallions, who was a guy that said, okay, they want me to get these signals. I mean, I've heard a lot of guys say, hey, we can steal signals off the all 22 copy that the coaches get. And he says, Coach Harbaugh, I've been stealing these off the all 22 copy. Then, it's just a rogue staffer, and I don't know where you go. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think there's any connection to the University of Michigan now saying that we're not going to offer Jim Harbaugh the extension that we talked about at this time?
Yeah, I think they're waiting for this all to settle in. I think it just would be bad optics. I think Michigan is like a lot of colleges are worried about its optics, and I think they just said, well, we're not going to give it to them right now until this investigation is complete. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I think it'd just be interesting because I think Michigan has a history of falling on the grenade when they don't need to. So we'll be, I think I'd just be interested to see what happens, you know.
Well, you know that they've had comments from other coaches making opinions about it, and you hear one coach saying something, that wasn't so good. I know one of the Big Ten coaches who'd Michigan play last week or something. He said there's something fishy going on, but I'm going to go try to figure out what it is. Well, you knew exactly what he was talking about, but then you hear like Georgia or Clemson coaches talking about bowl games, and they come out and say, "Well, I didn't pay any attention. I didn't see anything." So basically, if you're dumb enough to get somebody, if they can read your signs, that's your fault. Basically, is what I wanted to.
Yeah, that's one thing that I remember going Notre Dame before the pandemic hit. Used to have this fantastic football coaches clinic, and I remember one year they brought in Chip Kelly, who was probably the originator, or at least was the most successful team to go with all. Remember they used to hold up the signs,
the big signs, yes.
Yeah. And I remember someone asking him and saying, "Hey, aren't you afraid that, like, if they've got Daffy Duck in the right-hand corner, that somebody's going to catch on?" And he says, "Let me tell you, we've got 200 different combinations. You're not going to catch on. We change them every week, things like that." And I think this may be a case of some coaches getting lazy and saying, "Hey, look, we're going to keep these the same because this is just like baseball where there's a gentleman's agreement." And Harbaugh, who likes to ruffle feathers, saying, "I'm not really a part of this gentleman's agreement. I'm going to get it at every little advantage that I can."
So I think the real issue is the NCAA does have a rule. And by the way, they have their code of conduct manual is about that thick.
Yeah.
When I was coaching at Ball State, we had to read it. I got through the first 3 pages.
And said, "That's it."
Yeah, that's why I ended up in an NCAA investigation, I guess. But so I think that their issue is it's stated in there. You cannot, a member from that institution or that coaching staff or anybody affiliated with that cannot be at a game to scout. And so when the money trail, the paper trail leads back to the assistant coach from Michigan, then I think that's the smoking gun, to be honest with you. Now, so we've talked about this a little bit, you and I. Would it surprise you at this point in time now? Because obviously I know your Detroit Lions are on fire, man. They're 5-2. Yeah. They're fixing to be 6-2 tonight against
they have some injuries, though. I'm a little concerned. Some injuries here.
The Raiders, and the Bears absolutely stink, and they need a new regime as far as the coaching staff. So would it be in your thoughts that maybe Harbaugh, that it's a great time maybe after Harbaugh, he's 8-0 this year, he's got a really good team, really coached up well, would maybe leave and take the Bears job now?
Well, I think he's had, from what I hear, everybody says, well, the NFL doesn't want him. I hear he's got certain demands, like he's got to have some say in player personnel. Okay, so right now at Michigan, all 85 guys on scholarship are there because he wants them there. And when you get to the NBA or get to the pros, there's a guy that's in charge of personnel that will determine, hey, no, this is our guy, you coach him. So I think he's, from what I heard, okay, and that he's talked about, hey, look, I want my people in personnel issues, dealing with personnel. So I think any NFL team that says, hey, look, yeah, sure, go ahead. The dude has won and won big everywhere he's been.
Sure.
San Diego. I mean, you can't. He's done it at lower colleges. He's done it at Power 5. He's done it in the NFL, and back to a traditional Power 5 school.
So as far as the pros are concerned, you're saying it won't be as much money that's offered to him as much as control of the program.
Yes. Because remember,
he doesn't need the money.
His problem at San Francisco didn't deal with money. It dealt with what players to keep. They got rid of Alex Smith when he didn't want to get rid of Alex Smith. They got rid of some other players when he didn't want to get rid of players. And remember, Harbaugh is the only coach I can remember that they tried to trade him. Do you guys remember that? When they tried to trade him to the Cleveland Browns?
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So
but the coach is part of a trade bait.
Yeah,
so I think that it'll be interesting. I really think this will be interesting because U of M has a history of falling on the grenade when they didn't need to. You know, I think when the Fab Five was there, they had that basketball program rolling. I mean, you guys remember in the 90s.
Sure.
If you were a top 10 McDonald's All-American, Michigan was automatically.
Everybody wanted to go to Michigan.
Yeah. And then that Fab Five thing came, and really that guy, Ed Martin, was not a Michigan booster. He was a guy that just paid money to kids in Detroit. And Michigan fell on the grenade and killed its basketball program for years.
And what they were doing was basically NIL, which, in today's world would be perfectly legitimate.
But again, in today's world, there's a lot of things that people can do that they couldn't do back in the 90s or the early 2000s. And what Ed Martin did was give kids money, and then when they made it to the league, expect to be paid back.
Right.
That's what
Yeah, and Chris Webber, from what I understand, said, I ain't paying you back. And that's when Ed Martin went to the FBI, NCAA, and blew the whistle, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I certainly enjoy your expertise. I know you're a great Michigan fan, a Central Michigan a fan, but there's really nothing to root for at Central Michigan anymore, right? I don't know. I don't know.
They play Ball State.
Where's Charlie Coles? Where's Charlie Coles when you need him, right?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for giving us the angle as to what's going on. And you're the best, man. Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks,
See ya.
Steve.
So his perspective is really good because he's a big Michigan guy and he studies it. And he's exactly right when he says that Michigan has a tendency to jump on the grenade and throw themselves under the bus because of their elitism and the way they think. And in an earlier conversation that I had with Steve, he flat said to me, he said, it would not surprise me if Michigan did it again. And as this investigation, came out and they went through the investigation, and he said it could take a year to a year and a half to 2 years. Well, the question then with Jim Harbaugh electing to get out, there's no penalty following anybody to the NFL.
Right.
I mean, that would be the safest place for Jim Harbaugh to go if he said, I'm done with this, man.
And if they wait 2 or 3 years, all the players will be gone too.
Yeah. And he says, I'm done with this. And the Bears come up and they got a second-year GM. He says, listen, coach, I'll work with you on personnel. You tell me, who you really want, blah, 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 and I'll work with you. And I guarantee you, in a short amount of time, that Jim Harbaugh would get that thing turned around in Chicago.
Oh, I agree.
And another factor in that is the president of the Bears is Kevin Warren, who was the commissioner of the Big Ten.
That's
so
right.
if there was ever a guy that could go to Harbaugh and say, hey, Jim, now's the time for you to come to Chicago.
It's time to go.
It's Kevin Warren.
Yes, I agree.
So here's a counterpoint to all of that.
All right, counter us there, youngster.
Are they falling on the sword, or are they just proven cheaters and they're not very good at it?
I think that, as we talked about maybe last week, I think they got caught.
Or do they think they think they're so high and mighty that they can skirt around the rules, and then when it comes to find out that they did, it's like, oh no, we would never do that. Well, you've already seen, yes, you have, and the assistant coach was getting bankrolled to go to these games and everything. And I also want to know, why would they willingly go along with a private investigating firm run by Ryan Day's brother? Because every report I've read has said they are going along with the PI firm like it's nothing. If that PI firm is headed up by Ryan Day's brother, why in the heck would they cooperate with him? And I know he said it kind of tongue in cheek, just like bringing it up. Oh, what if? But what if? Like, what idiot would go along with their arch rival's brother as a private investigator?
Well, and then you say, and I'm not going to use the term idiot, because there's a lot of reasons people do stuff. It's pressure from, and the pressure might not have even come from Harbaugh. It might have come from one of the assistant coaches that said, "Hey man, give me this information. I want this information. This would help us win." But then what guy would leave a paper trail and have the assistant coach tied to the tickets and paying for the tickets, instead of the assistant coach going to his neighbor or going to his guy he plays cards with on Thursday nights and say, "Hey, listen, buy these tickets for me, man."
Kind of like when in the old days when you were trying to play, when you had to place a bet, you'd go to one of the neighbors and say, "Don't use your real name," and whatever.
So I just think the way that this whole thing is played out, there's I don't know if it was, well, hey, they're not going to catch us. Hey, it's not that big a deal. Blah blah blah. Well, it is a big deal. When the NCAA now in the NFL, I just found this out today. The NFL has no rule. An assistant coach, a staff member, can go to the NFL stadium and scout a game. But the thing being that all those play calls are going through the helmet,
right?
And so there's really no way to to maybe link that up, because they're going through the helmet.
You'd have to get on the same frequency.
Yeah, and even the defensive coordinators now, they're not using signals. The middle linebacker or whoever the spokesman on the defense is, they got the little communication device in the helmet. So the ways of stealing signs, a la the Houston Astros, of banging on the trash cans. I mean, so I don't know, and I'm thinking it's going to play out, right?
It'll play itself out. And one thing, it kind of brings back memories when I lived in Dallas in the 80s, and my brother Steve lived right next to the Cowboys' old practice field there on Forest Lane. And he could see the tower where they filmed from at his place. So he knew when somebody went up in the tower, it's time for practice. So he'd run over there and watch practice. Well, on Redskins week, there was a day, is either a days in or a Super 8 that's like right in the end zone. I mean, of the practice field, and it's 4 floors high. There were rumors that George Allen with the Redskins, they would go get a room and then film from the balcony the Cowboys practices. So on Redskins week, the Cowboys would go up and rent the top 2 floors 3 and 4, so nobody else could be in those rooms, so that they wouldn't have that issue of somebody filming practice.
Exactly, because did that happen? Probably.
There had to be a reason for it.
Probably.
But that was just the thing between George Allen and Tom Landry.
Yeah, no. So there were a lot of things, and so the question that Brian Kelly throws at everybody now is, just put the communication devices in the helmets.
Right. And you know what? I'm sure that's a conversation in all the conferences. And it would not surprise me if your big conferences, they go to that next year.
Well,
and then the smaller conference, it's going to be a conference decision, conference by conference.
You're just going to alleviate any of those issues.
I really think it's going to be, whether the Big 12 does it, the Big 10 obviously will, the Big 12, the SEC, they may do it, they may not. But I would predict that, the ACC, the Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, the Big Five conferences.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that they would.
Because they have money, they're going to go to the headsets.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, the problem they have right now is they're afraid that putting that headset will void any warranty that they have on the helmets. Well, get the same helmet the pros have. They already have it.
Come on,
why is
man.
it okay? Yeah, why is it okay for the pros but not the colleges?
Been sponsoring the NFL with those helmets.
Yeah.
So I really think your big
20 years.
Yeah, your big five conferences are gonna take care of that.
Hey, thanks to Tony Letcher with Health Markets Insurance. Whether you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, get a hold of Tony. They will treat you right and show you which way to go with coverage. Call Tony at 574-307-8882 or visit the website. Hans Funeral Home. Man, when you lose a loved one, you want people that you can trust. Hans Funeral Home is located at 505 West A Street in downtown Mishawaka. Call them anytime at 574-255-1474. Stop in to get answers from the local funeral professionals. Pat, question for you. What did one casket say to the other casket?
I don't know.
Is that you coughing?
I have a better one. You want to hear it?
Yes.
Why is there a fence around a cemetery?
People are dying to get in?
Because people are dying to get in.
That's right.
I just guessed at that one, man. But hey,
please,
the Han Funeral Home.
You people listening, please get me out of this one. Hurry. See down at the bottom of the screen, right down here, Black Sedan Hotline. Send in some questions. Tell us your comments about the Michigan.
Yes.
So tell us about that. You can also go up here. I'm over here. I would be a terrible weather.
What are you
person.
pointing at your ceiling, man?
I would be a terrible weather person right up here. You can do it there, or you can do it here.
Hey, I mean, tell us about Frick's Driving real quick, and then we'll get back on our show, man.
Well, it's interesting that we are definitely doing a good job because I don't know if you've noticed, but the latest news, somebody drove through the front door at Frick's last Saturday.
No.
They had to get some people in to clean that up. I mean, it's Saturday morning, and one of the kids was coming with their parents, and they were driving up to take their lesson, and they got the gas pedal and the brake mixed up, and they went up over the curb and boom.
Man.
So just like you see on those security cameras when the car comes crashing through the front door of the convenience store, that's what they did. So there's a market for us. That's for sure. We're trying to teach these kids how to drive.
That is true. Hey, the NCAA will come out tomorrow, I believe, maybe with their first right. Power Four. Let's predict what that'll be. I mean, I take a look at. You got 7-0 Georgia. You got 7-0 Ohio State. You got 7-0 Florida State. You got 8-0 Michigan. You got 7-0 Washington. With Michael Penix,
so you've got
Penix being one of the great Heisman hopefuls. So who's left out? Do you think?
I think right now Washington's going to be 5. I don't like that because I think Washington's legitimate in there, and as the weeks progress, that'll play itself out as long as they stay unbeaten. Now I think Washington they play Southern Cal this week. So that'll be a big game because they're first and second right now in the Pac-12. UCLA isn't back with 2 losses, but Washington has 0 losses. Southern Cal and Oregon have 1 loss in the Pac-12. So this will give Southern Cal a chance to jump up in a tie for first and then win that tiebreaker. But the one thing that I was listening at, they're talking about the Pac-12 is the power conference this year, not the SEC. And that was a huge argument on some of the talk shows today because they were talking about, Alabama is number 8 right now. So who has Georgia played and who will they play? Because you don't have Clemson in the ACC this year that, you don't have, Alabama's 8, Ole Miss is 11. You don't have 2 or 3 teams. And Kentucky's fading away. LSU's not in the top 10.
Well,
so you don't have those big names up in the top 4 or 5 like they have in the past. But yet you've got Washington, you've got Oregon, you've got Southern Cal that are all right up there in the top 10.
Yeah, but you're looking Southern Cal's got 2 losses. Oregon's got a loss, and so it's still who's unbeaten. Now this week Georgia will play Missouri. Missouri will be at Georgia. Missouri is 7-1, and they're in the east side of the SEC bracket. So we know Ohio State and Michigan will both probably not be in the Final Four because they'll beat each other. One of them will beat each other.
Right, and then do you leave one of them in the top 4 with one loss? It depends how Oregon and how Washington do. Now you mentioned Michigan and Ohio State are both 5-0. Have you noticed the western part of the Big Ten? There's a 4-way tie.
It's 3-2. Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
At 3-2. So
one of them one of them is going to play and then
in the conference championship, but one of them won't beat Ohio State or Michigan and mess that side up.
I think last year the loser of that game was, whether it was Wisconsin, didn't they end up in the Detroit Motor City Bowl or something?
No, exactly. The Jets Pizza Bowl from Detroit.
Exactly. So you mentioned the Southeast Conference. Georgia is 5-0 in the East. Missouri's next at 3-1, and you mentioned they're playing each other. In the West, you've got Alabama is 5-0 in the West,
and Ole Miss and LSU
are right behind them.
But you have Ole Miss, or you have Alabama playing LSU this week at Alabama. So with the one-loss teams right now, that how this thing shakes out. I mean, Alabama 7-1, Texas 6-1, Oregon has lost a game, and Oklahoma just lost a game last week. So, I mean, will one of those slide in? It could. Could Notre Dame slide in at 10-2? Notre Dame they have Clemson, who's 4-4.
Right.
When was the last time Dabo Swinney had a team that was 4-4?
It's been quite a while.
So you got Notre Dame against Clemson. Notre Dame finishes up then with Stanford
and Wake Forest.
And unless there's something going on that we don't know about, Notre Dame will end up 10-2. Well, there's only one way Notre Dame will get in or could get in, is if multiple teams lose one game, 2 games, and things like that. But I don't think. I mean, Notre Dame's rated 12th right now.
Right, they're 12th, and I think they should be happy to be 12. And if they sneak up to 8 or 9, and they'll be in a New Year's Day bowl.
Exactly.
They're not going to make the top 4.
Speaking of Notre Dame, their tight end Mitchell Evans is out for the year with a torn ACL. So I thought this was interesting. If you go on 3, ON3, it would list all of the NIL deals that all the players in the country have. And I thought it was interesting that Audric Estime, his NIL money is $664,000.
Is that right?
$664,000. Sam Hartman is $1.4 million.
And your critics, your sports writers are saying that Estime right now is the best running back in the country.
Well,
that he will go first. He'll be the first running back picked in the draft.
Well, from a money standpoint, that shakes out. Arch Manning, probably the third string quarterback at Texas,
right,
has something like a $2.8 million.
And right now, I think they had him listed as they had him listed as possible starter last week because their starting quarterback was hurt. So they were going with quarterbacks 2 and 3. So they had a 2A and 2B.
So I wonder how that works in the quarterback room, because Quinn Ewers, who's obviously their best quarterback,
right? Sure,
a 6-1 team, really, really nice Texas team. His NIL was $1 million. Sitting across from him in the quarterback room, Arch is making $2.8 million.
Yeah,
because of who he
is.
The
name, sure.
Yeah, so I think college football is going to shake itself out a little bit. When we looked at the games, last weekend, there were a couple of upsets in college football, and I will get them for you here.
The game I watched was the Southern Cal game. That Cal was up 2 touchdowns on them. The next thing you know, I think Southern Cal scored 3 times. Well, I went upstairs to get a drink of water, came back, and all of a sudden they're ahead.
Jeez,
and
it was a long drink.
Yeah, I think there was a trip to the bathroom, maybe. No, I think they scored 3 times in like 6 minutes. And then all of a sudden, then Cal came back and got 50-49 and went for 2 and missed. Otherwise, it'd been 51-50.
So Oklahoma gets beat by Kansas.
That was
obviously that throws a wrench.
And that was the goalpost ended up in the pond there at school.
Oh, that's great.
So that was a big deal.
Arizona beats Oregon State 27-24.
That shouldn't happen.
That shouldn't have happened. And Georgia Tech should not beat North Carolina.
Something's going on at Carolina because that's 2 in a row. Remember, they lost to UVA the week before.
Yeah.
So that's 2 in a row that Carolina has lost.
Colorado gets off to such a great start. And, Prime is the talk of the town. And they're selling the stadiums out 24/7 in Colorado. They are 1-4 in the Pac-12, which
reality setting in.
Reality sets in. And, where the weakness comes with their program right now and where they need to probably build up the most is the offensive line.
And that they went out and they got skilled players, but it's hard to go find linemen. And like you said, that's the base of everything. If you don't have linemen,
trenches, man, offense, defense,
you can only throw it to the edges so many times.
Well, you got to win the battle in the trenches, man. So games this week, you got Ball State, man. Ball State is checking in at 2-6. They got to win their last 4 games to be bowl eligible.
Good luck. They've fallen on hard times so far. I think they're what? What are they in the conference? 2-3, 2-4?
They are. Yeah, no, they're like 1 and they're 1-4.
Okay.
They're 1-4. They play at Bowling Green, who's 4-4. They play Northern Illinois, who's 4-4 also. They play Kent State, who's 1-7. So maybe they get to 5-6, but then they finish up with their big rival Miami, who is 7-2. So no bowl games for Ball State this year. Not this year, man. Wake Forest plays at Duke, and obviously we talk about Wake Forest only because my nephew is going to go there next year as well, and not even next year. Next year
calendar year will be there in January, right?
In January, he'll graduate December 23rd, I believe, and then head over there.
Well, and he mentioned that if they get a bowl invitation, he will be able to practice with them.
He would be able to practice, and so we certainly apologize that we didn't get that interview up with the great Jeremy Hecklinski at Walton. They're ranked number 2 in the state. We're going to try and do that next week.
We'll try to get that. And I was reading something on like one of the scouting sites. He was doing pretty well. He's got a tackle that's like 6'8", 320.
He's going to Georgia.
That's good. Yeah.
I saw him play. I saw him play.
And he mentioned that they have 9 or 10 or 11 Division I players on their team.
Yeah.
On their team.
Really?
Yes.
Really. Their tackle.
And that's one of them.
I was calling the tackle Michael Orr.
Oh,
from the blind side.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big. And moved well. And obviously Jeremy was not going to get hit from his blind side. Because all that tackle had to do was get out of his stance and move 2 feet to the right, 2 feet to the left.
6'8". He was 325, 330, something like that. At least that's what they had him listed on in paper.
And moved in for his senior year.
He was at a previous school last year.
Yeah, moved in. And
for academic reasons, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. Hey, Indiana, come on. Indiana played Penn State pretty good, but they're 2-6 and play. Wisconsin comes to Indiana. That ain't happening. There's no bowl game for Indiana.
Purdue still trying to get the first year coach, get things going in the right direction for them as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. And like we mentioned, Missouri's at Georgia. That'll be a good game. You have another rivalry game, Oklahoma at Oklahoma State.
Those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun, and you never know what's going to shake out there. And Brian Kelly, Brian Kelly took that job at LSU because he wanted to play in the big games in the SEC. Well, Brian, your wish has now come true because you're going to Alabama on Saturday, 6-2, 4-1 in the league. You're playing in a big game on Saturday against the Crimson Tide, man. Now, if LSU can beat the Crimson Tide, that throws a wrench in that whole side of the SEC bracket.
Yes, it sure does. It sure does.
Hey,
well, that'd throw a wrench in the national landscape in general. Because if Bama can go in and beat LSU, that pretty much takes them out. But if LSU beats Alabama, that gives them 2 losses. And then if by some miracle Alabama can beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, are you putting in Georgia with 1 loss over Washington with 0?
Yeah, no, that is a huge game in the landscape of college football. It's not only in the landscape of college football, but in the rivalry business too.
Right.
Because LSU's always had a great program. So Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame for 100 million reasons, right? 10-year contract for $10 million a year, and
he wanted to play with him
in big games.
He has fake accent.
The fake accent
that lasted one time.
Yeah, and the little dance,
right.
and the little dance. Yeah, and
coaches
I
do
like
strange
that.
things to.
I didn't like that. Hey, let's jump into high school football, man.
We can talk high school.
We had some, it's a state tournament in Indiana, and now the 6As and the 5As played last week. So now we have some games coming up in the sectional championships. So why don't you go through some of that locally that we have here now?
I can. Our crew, broadcast sports people, we went to 3 different games last week. We had a crew at the Northwood South Bend Washington game. That was 56-0 at the half.
Yeah, and Washington scored a couple, and I'm sure Northwood had their second teams, and
right.
and that was predictable.
Right.
Obviously.
And then we had a second crew at North Ridge. And they were over at Wawasee, and Wawasee had beaten South Bend Riley the week before, and they were 49-0 at halftime.
Yeah, and so South Bend Riley won the games that they should have won in the lower tier of the NIC conference,
right? And
had a nice season, 8-2, right?
Right. That everybody, the people up here in South Bend, I think reality finally smacked them in the face to find out that South Bend football is just really struggling right now.
Yeah, there was a day where South Bend football was really good. St. Joe and Mishawaka Marion. Well, I remember back in 1974, Mishawaka Marion won the single A class tournament. Nick DeChico, Johnny Morrow, Nick Barnes, Mike Heklinski was the head football coach. South Bend, Washington won the 4A state championship with Alan Zepka, Pat Decca, that whole crew, and they won that at School Field.
And they beat Bloomington South,
exactly,
who had won, I think, 60 in a row.
Yeah, no. So South Bend,
once upon a time,
Northern Indiana. Well, Penn's still strong.
Well,
I don't know if Penn is state strong.
But what's happened, I think, if you want to play football, they've left South Bend. They've gone to New Prairie, where I was last week. They've gone to Northwood, Northridge, Penn, or they go to St. Joe and Mishawaka Marion. But because of that, the 4 South Bend schools are now there's no football players there. And it's evidenced by that from the records that they've had the last several years. Like we said, Riley won games this year simply because of scheduling. We mentioned that their AD should be the AD of the year for scheduling.
Well,
because they go to the sectional and they lose to the last place team in the Northern Lakes.
In the Northern Lakes, but I'm not even sure if I give CB that award because he has to play those conference games. So it's not like he went out and found 2 or 3 tomato cans.
Well, and
he had to play those.
And
games.
It just shows you how the disarray the NIC is right now. And that's why Mishawaka got out a couple of years ago. They're no longer in the NIC, and now you have these other smaller schools leaving the NIC, which, they should have never gone in there to start with.
They should have never been in there. The Bremans, the Jim Towns. Who else?
John Glenn.
Well,
John Glenn and New Prairie are the problem, but John Glenn's leaving just the same. New Prairie's is growing, but the problem is they're now there and they're having trouble finding people to play.
So who did New Prairie play last week? The game that you did?
I went down to Kankakee Valley.
That's right,
and it ended up being a good game. It was a trap game for New Prairie. Played on a night. We played on a stadium with artificial turf, so they didn't have to play in the mud. It was dry until the overtime, But New Prairie's having some problems with their offense right now. They're very, very predictable. And if you wanted to scout them, you could watch the first game, the second game, or the last game. They all look the same. There's no new plays.
Maybe there's some
somebody stealing signs
going on in
they've all got their little cards where they look at them. So maybe somebody's over there holding up a card. But New Prairie, they go down to Culver Academy. I still call it CMA, Culver Military.
Sure.
But they're now trying to change their name just to Culver Academy. So they've got a beautiful facility down there as well. So championship is down at Culver Academy this Friday. So I will be there for that game.
And New Prairie will win that game, right?
Well, that's what they thought last week, but they ended up going overtime last week. And KV was 21-20 at the 2-minute mark and were lined up to go for 2. They were going to go try to win the game. Had lined up, go for 2. Let's win this thing right now. They called timeout. Came back, changed their mind.
And rethought it.
Thought about it, kicked the extra point, 21-all, went to overtime. They actually won the toss, took defense. New Prairie scores very first play, kicks the extra point. So now they're up 7. It starts raining. Right then, boom. It's all of a sudden the light switch hit. It just started raining, bam. And it rained hard. So now KV has to play, same end zone. Wind changes directions. It's right square in their face now.
Wow.
But they had a very good running back. And all they had to do is give the ball to him. Bam, 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 4 times. Because he was getting 6, 7, 8 yards of play. Give it to him 4 times. Go score, kick the extra point. Let's go play a second overtime. First, they get 3 yards. They get 2 yards. It's 3rd and 5. They drop back and pass. Incomplete. Now it's 4th and 5. Still raining. 4th down, chance to tie. Center snaps the ball over the guy's head. Game's over.
Game over. New Prairie.
That's how New Prairie escaped.
Lives to get a sectional championship. What about anybody else?
The big game coming up this week will be Northwood and Northridge.
Oh, that's a huge game.
Like round 6.
Yeah, and last year Northwood had some problems with some kids being suspended, and had a great season going. And Northridge beat them in the sectional.
They did.
So yeah, that'll be a great game. Where's it at?
Well, that's why I was getting ready to look stuff up here.
We're live. We're live. You can't go.
Well, I'm looking at last week's stuff. Here it is. It's at Northridge, and Northridge won 25-21 in September, and it's at their place this time. But they've got Northwood as the favorite. Figure that one out.
Yeah, no, I think. Well, I mean, Northwood's got 2 D1 players, and so I think when you would look at probably the best chance to win. I mean, I would go with Northwood too. You got Penn against Warsaw.
Well,
right?
I was going to say, let me just look at 6A. You've got Lake Central and Crown Point over in the region.
Don't care.
Crown Point's number 5 in 6A. You got Warsaw at Penn. Last year's rematch.
Penn.
You've got Fishers is at HSE. That's still part of the North, and then Westfield's at Noblesville. Those guys have all played each other. Fishers and Southeastern, are part of the same school corporation. Yeah. And they went overtime. HSE won 35-34 back in September. And so that's the North. Ben Davis had a huge game last week. Ben Davis was down 25-7 with 8 minutes left. Came back, scored 3 touchdowns in the last 7-8 minutes, and won 28-25 against in the game that they played. Against
who? Who'd they play?
Brownsburg.
Fire.
Two purple teams.
Fire the defensive coordinator at Brownsburg tomorrow.
And that was number 1 versus number 3. So that, a lot of people thought that was a state championship. Close game we'll have coming up. Cathedral's got to go to Lawrence North.
Lawrence North plays basketball.
But it's Cathedral's ranked 4th. And I think Lawrence North's 10th or 11th. Warren Central's got an easy one at Southport, Center Grove, Columbus North. It should be. So they got some. I mean, every one of those games is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think so too.
They'll just keep getting better. Up here in 5A, you got Merrillville, Hammond Morton, Michigan City, LaPorte, 6-5.
6-5. I saw that.
It was 6-3. And Michigan City took a safety on purpose so they could kick from the 20 instead of punt out of their own end zone.
I thought that was a fall baseball game.
Well, they mentioned that somebody hit a 2-run homer and the guy got thrown out at home or something.
Schreiber Field, right?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, Mishawaka's at Concord. That was 31-7 back in October.
Yeah, no, come on. If Mishawaka loses that game, there needs to be an investigation. Mishawaka will play Fort Wayne Snyder.
They'll play the winner of Snyder and Fort Wayne North Side. You're right.
Yeah.
On the west side, you got Decatur Central, West Lafayette, or Harrison from Lafayette, Whiteland, Terre Haute South. Bloomington South is number 2. They go to Seymour. That should be a blowout. Evansville North and Castle down on the river.
Bloomington South beat their rival Bloomington North.
That's the second time
on Friday night. Yeah, that was a huge game down in Monroe County.
Well, that was a rematch. Actually, they beat each other. The other one won in the other game. All right, 4A. I'm going to Culver Military for New Prairie. Northwood, North Ridge. Those guys will play each other the following week. Over at Fort Wayne area, you got Dwenger and Leo. Leo's been doing very well. Mississinawa had an upset last week. They won, and they will play Kokomo. Brebeuf still in. The big games are in the south. You got New Pal still playing Mount Vernon. You got East Central playing. You got Evansville Wright. You got 4 of the best teams down in the south for 4A. 3A up here in this area. Got Hanover Central's undefeated. They go to West Lafayette. John Glenn plays undefeated at Knox. Knox is now 11-0.
Russ Radke, man, and so we know Russ. I mean, I know Russ when Russ was coaching at North Judson and really cutting his teeth on the wishbone at North Judson.
Right.
And he's as old, maybe a little bit older than you and me. He loves to coach football.
He just loves to coach it. But Knox will play John Glenn.
Did I tell you that my first job in coaching was at Knox? At Knox, I lived in a cottage on Bass Lake, right across the street from the Club Capri. Now I'm just out of college, man.
Right.
I'm out of college, living across from the Club Capri on a beach, on a lake.
On a lake.
Every weekend, I had my college boys down.
Did you guys have a boat? Did you have access to a boat?
I had access to a boat. My brother beat me up. My brother Mike was the head football coach at Richmond. And Mike came to me after my first year at Richmond and said, "Hey, listen, man," he said, I got the JV coaching job for you at Richmond. He said, "It's a great job, North Central Conference, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Go in and resign." I said, "Hold on, stop, and let me think about this a little bit. I've had the best year of my life at Knox."
It was better in college, right?
Yeah, and so he smacked me in the head, man. He goes, "Are you stupid? You're in the North Central Conference." So I stayed at Knox for a year and then went to Richmond.
So it kind of reminds me of maybe Gibbs hitting Donoso in the back of the head or something.
No, I'm just saying.
That's funny.
Just saying, man. Knox is back in play, and the reason Knox is back in play is one reason: Russ Radke.
And if they win, they'll end up playing probably Hanover Central, who's ranked number 4 in 3A, but he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he doesn't care. 2A, you get the rematch between Bremen and LaVille. They played 17-10, but I think it was the first game of the season back in August.
Yeah, that's a great game. Bremen and LaVille, that's who they should be playing.
Yeah.
Bremen should not be in the NIC. They should be playing, and they will be in that new conference.
And that's what we just mentioned. Here's Bremen at 2A. They're in the same conference as Penn, a 6A.
Yeah, no.
They don't need.
Well, it's not.
And that's the reason they had North and South or East or West, whatever divisions. They shouldn't have had two people in there.
It's not good for Bremen. It does nothing for Penn.
No, they wouldn't play each other in football. They play each other in basketball,
sure,
and your other sports, your tennis, your baseball, and everything like that. But competitive wise, it's not fair. That's for sure. Class 1A, the other big game up in this area will be North Judson and Triton.
Yeah, North Judson, the Blue Jays, man.
Yeah, and that'll be a good game. And then the winner of that has to go down to Park Tudor and play Park Tudor the next week.
So
that's your high school football.
Well, no, so we got some teams to still root for. I will say that I just have this feeling with New Prairie. I think, and obviously I believe Penn will win. There's no question about that in my mind. You got Russ Radke playing still. You got Mishawaka still in there playing Concord, and then Mishawaka will go play big boy football and host Snyder.
Well, they played. Did they play Snyder last year?
They played Snyder last year. Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
I played them really, really
so
well.
I think that'll be a rematch if indeed that does happen.
So that'll be big boy football. So hey, high school football, high school basketball now starting next Monday. Are you kidding me? Girls basketball.
Girls start this coming week because I think we've got a girls game. We've got do Penn girls, and I think they play Thursday and Friday of this week. So we've got them.
And let me thank Tony Letcher again with Health Markets Insurance. Whether you need help with your health insurance or Medicare, go see Tony. Talk to Tony, 574-307-8882, or visit Tony at tletcher.com, man. And Hahn Funeral Home, our last read for Hahn Funeral Home. Anything you need, call Pat Hahn and his staff, and they will take care of you. And it's a very, very difficult time. They will make it as easy as possible on you. So get a hold of them, 574-255-1474, located at 505 West 8th Street. I will tell you that I had a college basketball game, I had a women's game and a men's game at IUSB Saturday, and the IUSB men's team, this will be a lot of fun because I historically will do a lot of those games at IUSB, and the men's team has 3 South Bend area players on that team. Tez Columbus, who played at Adams, really just a good player. Played 2 years in Manchester, came home and is playing at IUSB. They beat Lawrence Tech out of Michigan 89-79 on Saturday. Tez had 25 points.
Okay.
Second leading scorer, Jalen Petty from South Bend, Washington, 6'6", played at Kaskaskia Junior College for 2 years. He's now at IUSB. He throws down 20 points. And then DeJon Barney at Riley, DeJon Barney now 6'9". At Riley, he was maybe 6 foot.
Yeah, he wasn't very tall.
He went to Lincoln. He went to Lincoln Community College, transferred to IUSB. He had 18 points. So if you want to go watch some really good basketball and get some South Bend flavor to it, stop over at IUSB because
Holy Cross has some players too. They've got Robles and
Tommy Snyder.
Tommy Snyder from Adams.
Yes.
And I think they start tomorrow night. I think they have a game.
Yes, they do. And I probably have 3 or 4 of their games.
And they usually play Bethel here pretty quick. So they may play Bethel.
Well, they have a crossover. Where it's Bethel and Goshen will play Holy Cross and IUSB.
Okay.
They cross conferences, and that's really a cool thing to watch.
Well, that's a nice that NAIA. What's nice about the South Bend area is just what you mentioned. There's 2 different conferences right here locally. You have Goshen and Bethel
in the Crossroads Conference,
and you got Holy Cross at IUSB in the Chicagoland Conference,
the CCAC.
So they have a chance. All 4 of them realistically could get in the national tournament through their conference tournaments.
And the Crossroads Conference is, just great schools. Huntington, great basketball schools.
Sure,
Huntington, coached by Corey Alford. Of the great Alford family. You got Grace College, who's
done very
really
well
good,
recently. Yes,
really good. Indiana Wesleyan,
always good with Tonigal down there.
Greg Tonigal, Bethel, St. Francis, just a Goshen, just a great.
Is Taylor in that conference too?
Taylor's in that conference.
Okay.
Of the old great Taylor coach Paul Patterson,
right, who
passed away a couple of years ago. But so Bethel has. Drew Lutz coming back, just an outstanding guard. Can get his anytime he wants. They have another guard that transferred in, the kid from Plymouth, Clay Hilliard, who's just a great shooter. Had some health problems. Transferred back to Bethel for his last year or 2. So Lutz and Hilliard will be 2 great guards. And then they brought the kid Preston Phillips, who had played at Jimtown, who's 6'8", and got a D1 scholarship down to Evansville. Mm-hmm. He's at Bethel now, and he's playing. He's playing for the Pilots. So Bethel will have a great run, coached by the ex-LaPorte Slicer, Steve Draben.
Well, and I mentioned between Draben and Tonagel, they were on the LaPorte team that we played in the '98 Michigan City Regional when I was at Adams.
Man,
they were on the same team.
Just great,
good stuff.
And turned out to be great coaches. And so when you either have a player or you play against somebody, and the first thing that crosses your mind is you think, man, they're great players. They'll have a chance to be a great coach someday. Well, one of the things, and I didn't put this together until they tried to fire me at Anderson. And I was, they probably had some reason after my 10th year, but they went about it just historically the wrong way. Because they never evaluated me. And Anderson, as you well know, is a town where union is the biggest word in the town.
It's big union town with all the General Motors.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. And so if you're not going to evaluate somebody, how can you fire somebody? Well, so where was I going with that? What was it?
You're talking
Magic
about
Mind.
Players.
Magic Mind.
How many players went to college? How many players you have that are now coaches?
Magic Mind.
Well, and your Wapahani group for sure.
Yeah, but and so at Anderson, I put this together, and in my coaching career, over 40 of my players went into coaching and teaching, and about 17 of them are now head coaches.
Well, one of them is the girls' coach at Anderson right now,
Aaron Boyd.
Yes.
Aaron Boyd. And so I guess if you were to put your legacy together, in all the stops that you, and I know one of your guys was down at IUPUI.
Right. Antoine Banks is still down there right at IUPUI, and they were down at IU last, 3 days ago for an exhibition game.
Yes.
Tommy Robbins is a Holy Cross. He's the girls' coach and athletic director at Holy Cross College. He played for me at North Miami back in the day.
Yeah, and if you think back to maybe some of your guys at Madison, or
Sure.
And I don't know if you've kept in contact, but it's always a great thing. And what I called that was Heck's law of legacy. Because the comment was made to me by the principal. You're not very good for the kids anymore, Ron. And when he said go ahead and tell me that my defenses are bad, or go ahead and tell me that I'm not coaching offense right or something,
Sure.
But don't tell me that I'm not good for kids.
Good for the kids.
And when they said that to me, I quickly said, really? Then why do they want to be like me? If I'm not good for them, why do so many of them want to go into the profession and do what I do, or do what you do?
Exactly.
So I mean, don't throw that thing at me. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, and we're going to talk to him next week. I'm going to get him on next week. It's a kid that played for me at Richmond named Chad Kirk. Just a great player, man. Just a nice kid, great player. He lives in Carolina Beach in North Carolina. Okay. He's probably, I'm 60. He's probably maybe turning 60, maybe 58 to 60. He's running for the mayor of the town. So the elections are next Tuesday on the 7th, right?
Okay, sure.
He's trying to be the mayor. So I said, we'll put you on our show next week, and you can give your pitch to the people in town and tell them they can go to YouTube.
Put them on
Monday night.
Put them on. We'll get a big audience in Carolina next week.
So then I can say, I got a guy that's a mayor.
I got a mayor,
man. You're gonna tell me I ain't good? I got a mayor, Chad. But we're gonna talk to Chad Kirk next week. So NBA started, right? We got a couple minutes left.
Sure.
NBA started.
We got all the time in the world left.
Did you watch any NBA games?
I've watched maybe 10 minutes, and I can't even tell you. And it was just one that happened to be on. If you look what we've got on right now, we got an Ollie Foreman fight on ESPN. I thought ESPN2 might have Peyton and Eli on tonight, but evidently they don't.
Well, so we didn't see any. So I've watched a couple of NBA games, and I watched a couple of the Bulls games, and it's the most dysfunctional, disorganized team I've ever seen in my life. Billy Donovan is coaching the Bulls, and if you talk about an NBA name, Billy Donovan would hold some weight, right?
Sure he would.
But his team is completely awful, man. Just awful. They play the Pistons on Saturday night. Zach LaVine goes for 51, and they lose by 20. And there's no rhyme, no reason to the makeup of the team. They got a kid who they drafted in the 4th round, Patrick Williams. He doesn't go to the glass. He plays 20 minutes. He takes 3 shots and gets 2 rebounds at 6'9". Now, come on.
Right.
So, I mean, scoring, okay.
Right.
Okay, you're going against tough players. You can't get your butt to the glass.
Go play
6'9".
Go get a rebound. I did watch the Spurs a little bit, either last night or the night before they were on.
So what do you think of Wemby?
Well, the part I saw, he was sitting on the bench. He was going through the rest. I think I saw him play maybe 2 minutes out of the 10 or 15 that I watched. But most of the time, he was the rotation, because I was looking around. I was looking around to see who I knew on the teams.
Well, you knew Blake Wesley.
And I was looking. I don't think I saw Wesley on the floor either. Maybe he was sitting next to the big kid on the bench. I don't know.
So he got a DNP.
Oh,
he got a DNP that night.
That's what I'm guessing. So that's I hadn't had a chance to watch that yet. But tonight we're going to watch some baseball. Here's the one thing, and Scott can vouch for this. You've got, the media is not going to talk much about the World Series. I think this is like the two of the worst teams record-wise ever in the World Series, because they both have 80-some wins. But
Rangers
the
have
media
90.
90. The media has created that because the media is so coastal. They're so, Dodgers, they're so Yankees and Red Sox, that they don't talk about the middle of the country, teams. So, but you got to realize Phoenix and Dallas are really, in some people's minds, the new LA and the new New York. I mean, those are the places to be right now, Phoenix and Dallas. And the sports teams are proving that. They've got some good ball players, and we mentioned some of that earlier. And I think a lot of these guys are going to have their coming outs, this week as we get through this series and make a name for themselves. And people nationwide are going to hear a little bit about them. But like tonight, do you watch the World Series Game 3 with Scherzer pitching, or do you watch the Lions and the Raiders?
Well, I might, if I'm a Texas fan, I might watch the Ali Foreman fight, to be honest with you, because Max Scherzer's got a 9-point whatever ERA, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's got anything left, but I will say this much: he's making $43 million a year.
He's making. You were talking about he makes the same payroll.
He's making $43 million a year. Jacob deGrom, I don't know, what did he throw? Maybe 20 innings this year, Scott? I don't know. He's making $40 million.
Yeah,
well, he's making $40 million.
Well, I really think the last series, Scherzer, pitched twice, and I think those were both. They were hopeful that they could get some innings, some pitches out of him.
He got better in each game.
Yeah, as anticipation that tonight he's going to be good, and if there's a Game 7, he'll pitch Game 7.
Yeah, I think it's interesting from the standpoint, and I've already said this, that Arizona has a $41 million payroll, and they're playing with young kids.
They're young,
young kids.
And let's see how many of them are around next year. Maybe they may be playing for a contract right now this week.
Yeah, well, and so a lot of people don't watch the Diamondbacks because they're out west. All their games start at 9 p.m. Sure. So a lot of people in the Midwest don't get to see them unless they're playing against their team. I'm a Cub guy, so like I said, I saw him play 7 straight games. And all of a sudden, I'm saying this Carroll kid for Arizona Corbin Carroll is just a stud. He hits everything. They got a catcher, Moreno, at the trade deadline. So I think all these young kids coming up, they'll be the name. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the Atlanta Braves had all the young kids coming up. Now those guys are established veterans, and nobody heard of Ronald Acuna.
Well, and think about the Cubs team that they had that won the World Series.
That was in 2016, man. Yeah. It seemed like I had hair then. I had more hair than I got now.
That was Cleveland and the Cubs.
Yeah.
Well, and they're both back in the pack now. You haven't heard about Cleveland since, because all those guys left.
Well, you may hear about Cleveland again because Craig Counsell, the manager from the Brewers, interviewed at Cleveland today, and Craig Counsell is a great manager. But I think anybody in baseball now, anybody can get hot at any single time, and they all say they want to make their teams ready for October, which means they want to have 3 aces on their staff to go. Games 1, game 2, game 3, and then game 4 they start over with their game 1 pitcher, and that's their goal. So they go out and get Scherzer, and he is an ace. And I don't know if he's thrown like an ace anymore because he's got so many innings in him. But I'm happy for Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy is a pro. He's a great manager. Won 3 World Series with the Giants, and they spent a lot of money. They were talking about the total contracts for all the years. They were talking about went into the billions.
Wow.
That Texas has spent. So they got to get a guy over there, and they did. Bruce Bochy,
get somebody in there.
And where are they at?
Yep,
World Series.
They're still playing, and
they're a year early.
We can't leave without Dusty Baker mentioning his name. That he announced his retirement finally. And again, will he retire?
Oh no, he's 74. He's 74, I believe. He managed the Cubs for a while, and the slogan on the shirt was when they brought Dusty in was "In Dusty we trusty." And he's renowned. He's known for the toothpick. He's known for the wristbands. Here's a little trivia. When Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run to break the record, Dusty was in the on-deck circle. Dusty played for the Atlanta Braves, and Dusty was the next hitter. He was the next hitter. And Dusty has always done it the right way.
Yes.
And that's why it was so important for Houston, who was in that stupid scandal with, sign stealing, banging the trash cans.
Right.
Really? So they got to get some integrity back.
Right.
And they hired Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
Who better to bring integrity back for him?
They didn't get rid of any players. They just brought him in and righted the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, they didn't sign George Springer. George Springer, who was an integral part of the Astros, signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, but mostly they kept their team intact.
They did.
Altuve, Bregman. Those guys were good players, and then Dusty just was a pro manager.
Altuve had a great series. That Houston Texas series was a fun one to watch last week.
And you were talking about how that was just a huge event in the state of Texas.
Well, and Scott mentioned that the radio shows down there were saying that was the biggest sporting event in Texas history because it involved 2 towns. It wasn't the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. It wasn't just one town. It was 2 towns, and it happened to be Dallas and Houston. So that was a big deal.
It's bigger than any UT A&M game has ever been.
Sure. And that's the best thing you can do is you're with your colleges. A&M in Texas is big stuff.
Well, I can guarantee you. So I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, the St. Louis Cardinals in football, they used to be in Chicago.
Right. They were the Chicago Cardinals weren't they?
And the Chicago Bears in the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, after watching the Bear game last night, Tyson Bat. So here's what came to my mind. Am I stupid staying up to 11:30 watching the game when the Bears were awful? And I got to go to work the next day.
Yeah, no, he wasn't on vacation. He had to go to school today.
I had to go to school.
Dedication.
Yeah, no, because that's what we do. We like our teams, and but the Bears are a mess. If the draft were to be held tomorrow, the Arizona Cardinals are a bigger mess, and they would have the number 1 pick, and the Bears would have picks 2 and 3. So hey, I'm in Tankathon.
I hear you. Hey, before we go, Scott and I were talking about this earlier, a topic that very few care about. Did you notice that the Tennessee Titans wore the Houston Oilers uniforms this weekend?
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
They looked really nice, didn't they? Brought back lots of memories. But the
jerseys are nice.
We were arguing,
yeah,
why the Tennessee Titans and not the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I can tell you why, because Tennessee took the Houston Oilers franchise.
Used to be. Yes, you're exactly right.
So that's why Tennessee and not Houston. Houston then came in as a new franchise. But here's one for you when you talked about that Titans game. And if you guys can remember this, watching the NFL draft. And those guys. They show those guys in the green room all the time.
Exactly. I've got that. Go ahead.
Who's gonna, the quarterback, Will Levis,
quarterback from Kentucky.
He's sitting there, and everybody says he's going to be drafted in the first round,
maybe the first round.
Pick. Yes, in the first 4 picks, whatever.
Yeah.
He sits in the green room all night long with his family, with his girl, and he doesn't get picked in the first round. He ends up getting picked like maybe the second or third pick in the second round, which is the next day. And I don't know if you want to call it the humiliation or whatever, because he's still going to play in the league. He's still making millions. But his agent and all of the NFL prognosticators said, you're going in the first round.
You might be the first pick.
Yeah. And so come and be a part of it.
Sure.
And then you just end up feeling so sorry for him. Well, he started last night for the Titans because Tannehill is hurt, and he threw 4 touchdown passes. So I was really excited for him, and he looked pretty good too.
He looked pretty good. One of the things I was looking at too, it said yesterday 13 backup quarterbacks played yesterday in ball games. And I watched the 1 o'clock slot yesterday. There were 9 games on my TVs yesterday.
Jesus.
The red zone was in full force, but out of those 9 games, 7 of the quarterbacks that started the game did not finish the game. So 7 quarterbacks got hurt yesterday, including Minnesota's quarterback Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, tore
his Achilles. So he's done, and he had been playing very, very well. And Minnesota was 0-4, 1-4.
And they won their last 2. They're 3-4
now. They're back. There's some breathing room for them now. At least people are thinking they might have a chance to, maybe be 500, and then he turns around and gets hurt.
Yeah. So the trade deadline is tomorrow, and so we'll see if Minnesota goes out and gets a quarterback, gets a backup quarterback. I guarantee you this: if Justin Fields were healthy, the Atlanta Falcons would have made a big push to the Bears for that trade, because Justin Fields is from Atlanta,
right?
And Desmond Ridder is their quarterback out of Cincinnati. Just okay. Justin Fields would sell some tickets for the Falcons, but Justin Fields is not healthy. And if the Bears made that decision that he's not going to be our quarterback of the future, I'm pretty sure the Bears would have traded him and got another number 1 maybe for him.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see the trade deadline tomorrow.
I bet
and
there's
which
things
players get moved.
I mean, tonight and tomorrow. I'm
Yes.
not sure Colt McCoy's name's got to be coming up. I've heard his name already. And again, he's been around
Jameis
4 or 5 different teams. Jameis Winston. Yeah. So there's going to be some movement, and there might be some names that get moved. You never know.
Well, one of the names that make it move to the Bears is Chase Young, and it's the former number 2 pick from Ohio State who's playing with the Washington Commanders now. But I don't know if the Bears want to give up draft capital. I mean, the Bears are so bad, they need a lot. But at the end of the day, if I'm a GM, I'm saying, and if I got to give up a 3rd round pick, I'm saying to myself, can I find Chase Young in the 3rd round? Can I find is Chase Young going to be in the 3rd round next year? And my answer would have to be no. I get a chance to take Chase Young now and give up a 3rd rounder for him. Why not?
I know. And teams
who Chase Young's defensive coordinator was?
Yes, I do.
Pretty well.
Yes, I do. Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan from the Mike Ditka era.
Who are you going to say?
It's Greg Madison. He was the D coordinator at Ohio State.
Yes.
Last year.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And if you and obviously everybody listened to that interview. I mean, Greg Madison had
page and listen to that interview. It's really good.
Had great things to say about Justin Fields.
That's right. He sure did.
He had great things to say about his character, his practice. Practice is hard. Just a great leader. He struggles making a quick read. Holds the ball too long. Can't progress from read 1 to read 2 to read 3. And maybe he can't. And maybe there's other quarterbacks like that too. Well, then let him play on the edge, take half the field away, and let them make those reads on one half of the field.
Well, and what you're talking about there, a lot of that has to do with their upbringing in college. We're talking about sending plays in, the sign stealing and everything that we're talking about. Many of these quarterbacks, when plays were sent in, those pass plays they knew who they had one receiver. If he wasn't open, they threw it away. Or you have other quarterbacks that are going through your progressions, and those are the guys that are having some success right away in the pros.
Yeah, and his receivers at Ohio State were great receivers too.
Might have been better than what he's got in the pros.
Yeah, so I will tell you. So we're going to end this show on one story. Now, this is a great story. Jim McMahon, when he played for the Bears, one of my high school guys was the public relations director for the Bears, Kenny Valdesari. His dad, Roger Valdesari, was the SID for Notre Dame for ever and ever and ever. And Kenny told me, he said, Mike Ditka made, I don't know, $1 million. The offensive coordinator on the field made like maybe $500,000. The offensive quarterback coach in the booth made like $300,000. So the offensive coordinator would call a play. Mike Ditka would approve the play. They would send it upstairs to the quarterback's coach. The quarterback's coach would say yes. They would signal the play into McMahon. McMahon would give him all the finger and call what he wanted.
That's a good one. Well, hey, listen,
before you wrap up, we have one comment from one of our very loyal viewers. Heck, I think you might know her pretty well. It's up on the screen there.
Oh,
with a picture of your dog.
Who is it?
That's your wife.
Oh, sweet Monica.
She says, "Great show."
That's a good. Your wife.
Is there a question? Is there a question for Monica? Because I can't read. I can't see all the way over there.
Like she just made a comment.
It just says, "Good show."
Hey, so
at least it's a compliment, though.
All right, so you know what I would say. So okay,
I know.
Good show. I know.
Hey, Dan Dockich.
Thanks, sweet Monica. Hope you're feeling better. I'll be home. Let me know if you want me to bring you some grub.
That's right. Hey, listen. I was just going to mention all of these shows are on YouTube now. Last week's shows are on YouTube. The Greg Madison interview is on YouTube. Of last week? Yeah, the little bit of last week.
Forget last week. Hey, Wally. Hey, our producer has got some things to do tonight. Yeah. He couldn't be here. He may be getting Wally pipped.
Well, you can see. Look how simple this is. I mean, we've got an Amazon special here for a mixer, and we're just hooked up to YouTube tonight. And like I said, you can go back and find all of our shows. YouTube, search Coach's Corner with Heck and King, and you can find shows all the way back into our first shows are on there as well. And you can find if you're crazy enough and bored enough, you can listen to us on your radio. You can Bluetooth your phone, find us on Apple, Spotify, whatever you want to do. But we're trying to have a little fun.
We had a blast tonight. We had great information. Shelty was great. Good night. I'm drinking some great lemonade at your crib here, man.
Lemonade. Yep. We got the fireplace going upstairs.
Fireplace going, and Monica and I will talk about our fireplace.
Okay. Tomorrow is Halloween, and
what's the temperature up there?
Dusting of snow. It's high 30s tonight. We got to
say it.
I thought you had your mask on already.
Oh, stop it! Yeah, I do. Like we've been told we have a face for radio.
Magic Mind.
I know. Well, I was going to mention too, right behind you, for anybody that cares. That number 43 jersey, we got that in the Booster Club. That jersey is 50 years old. That, if anybody cares to auction that off, that is Roy Taylor, Mr. Basketball. That is Roy Taylor's jersey. My dad bought that in the Booster Club garage sale back in the 70s and thought it was mine. Now I came home. I didn't have the heart to tell him I was number 41, not 43. I was 41. Roy was 43, and Tony Marshall was 45.
That was a great era of high school basketball.
We were pretty good back then. We're still working on a 50th reunion, and I think Anderson's missing the boat right now. And I'll leave you at this. We had 4 teams back in the day that were, big time. When I was a freshman, Madison Heights went to the semi-state, got beat by Elkhart, Schaefer Suggs. Okay, they had a guy named Bobby Wilkerson, was a junior.
Love Bobby.
Okay, following year they go to the state finals.
Ray Tolbert.
I was a sophomore. They beat us by 4. They go to the state finals. Ray Tolbert was like a 7th grade back then. They had Harry Morgan was a sophomore who played Little League with me. Wilkerson, Clarence Swain, Joe Jessup, Steve Porter, Roy Coy Nunn. How's that for remembering lineups?
Wait a minute.
That was Madison Heights' team.
Okay. The Harry Morgan that played Sherman Potter on MASH?
No. Harry Morgan.
Harry Morgan,
who was the other forward with Larry Bird at Indiana State. Yeah. And I got a story about that, how Harry got that scholarship because Roy Taylor turned it down because he didn't want to go to Indiana State and play with Bird. How's that for a story back in the day?
That might have been a pretty good team if he'd have gone.
But 73, we were in the state finals. The Indians went to the state finals. So you had 72 the Pirates, 73 the Indians, back-to-back state finals, Final Four. 74, we are still the only undefeated regular season team in Anderson history. We were 20-0. And if you look through the record books, there's only one Anderson team that has one loss. And that was us. Night game in semi-state, Fort Wayne Northrop. And then they ended up winning the state the next week.
3 of my teams had 2 losses. So what did they so where did they always say that Norm Held lived in Anderson?
He lived at Edgewood Country Club.
Well, no, where did he live?
Corlett Way.
On 2nd Street. Because he always came in second.
Yep.
State championships.
That's the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. I would love to be state runner-up.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
4 times?
4 times, man. I love Norm.
4 times state runner-up.
I mean, Norm was so. This is the last, and then we're going because I got stuff to do. But
how many coaches have you had at Anderson?
No. The last. Okay. My tenure. The 3 coaches. The 2 coaches before me.
Ray Estes was mine.
Okay, Ray Estes, Norm Held, and myself all lived on Corlett Way.
That's right.
All lived on Corlett Way.
Street.
So there's a little trivia for you. Listen, I'm gonna close this thanking Tony Letcher again from Health Markets Insurance, Hahn Funeral Home, the Black Sedan Band. Man, they got some tunes that are out of this world. Every time we listen to the music, you can't see us, but we're shaking and banging here. We
have to run back to our seats.
Great music. Frick's Driving Center. Our sponsors are phenomenal.
We'll mention Bar Louie with them. We'll be back at Bar Louie next week.
We'll be back there tomorrow or next week. Pat, you were phenomenal today. No Magic Mind for you.
No Magic Mind. I've tried.
You have enough notes that kept you rolling tonight.
Well, I was home today between this and doing leaves
No Magic
outside.
Mind. But anyway, next week, please tune in at 7, from 7 to 8, or you can archive it, or you can, whatever platform you use, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, catch our show next week. We're gonna have a mayoral candidate on next week who lives in Carolina Beach, who played for me at Richmond. We're going to try and have J-Dog, Jeremy Hecklinski, if he'll do it. If he'll do it, because we dogged him one time.
Yeah, that's true.
We have to go in there with some humble pie.
We could have done it tonight, so we could have got him on here and had him in person.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure that we could get somebody on here, me and you doing this. Anyway, hey, thanks for tuning in, Pat. You're the best.
See you guys.
Scott, thanks for helping us out. I'll see you guys next week at Bar Louie.
Give us a song, Scott, to get us out of here.
Oh, here, hang on. I don't know.
Which one?
I'm working on it. There we go.
All right. There you go. Why not? We're homemade.